Waiting for Don, Ken, and Richard.
Yep. We are live on YouTube right now.
Fantastic.
Okay.
All right, we got everybody
There's
here.
Don. Waiting on Ken, Don.
Yeah, he says he's gonna call in. Ken had a long night. All right, we got everybody here. Waiting on Ken. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Ken will probably be here in a minute. I'll text him and find him. I think he plans on being here today. I bet that's. Ken, is that you? Oh. All right.
Richard Schwartz.
Hey, Richard.
How you doing?
All right, let's call the meeting to order, and do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion we approve the
Steve?
agenda.
Steve, do we need to add anything based on what you've been saying this morning?
I think most of it's going to come up in discussion. It's just a lot of questions people have today based on what was presented by the governor and what's coming out as far as spring break versus food service or not food service, and our last reports of personnel attendance. The only thing we may be able to
Brad
take...
made a motion.
Hey, Rich.
Do we have a second?
Hold on. We may, but I don't think HR has a report. You may be able to pull that off.
Okay, if they don't have a report, we can take that off.
This is Ken on the line.
Hey! Congratulations.
Thank you.
What'd you have?
I would say a baby, but that would be a smart aleck. I had a little boy.
I was just wondering what species, Ken.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Ken.
Thanks.
Okay, Don, do we have everybody present, all board members?
Yeah, as far as I know, yes.
So everything's working. We're streaming. As I know right now, everything's working.
All right, Brad made a
went
motion
down.
to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Wait,
All right,
hey,
all in
Brad, are
favor?
you, wait, Don. Hold on. Brad, is your motion to remove item 5 from the agenda and then approve?
Yes, the HR report. Yes.
And who made the second?
Me. Cindy.
Cindy.
Okay.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, next under information, number 1, Mr. Schwartz and Dr. Hill.
Okay. Richard, would you please
Okay.
explain the last order?
Sure. Am I coming through clear enough?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so on Friday, the governor issued another new executive order 121, and it's entitled Stay at Home and Strategic Directions for North Carolina in Response to Increasing COVID-19 Cases. And it covers a lot of ground, so I'll try and walk you through it. First, it's a stay-at-home order for everybody except as allowed in this executive order. And then in the executive order, there are a lot of permitted activities under the heading of essential activities. Only travel for essential activities is permitted. And leaving the home and travel for accepted essential activities is permitted only to perform essential activities. You can leave home for certain types of work, and that includes performing work at businesses that are authorized as essential businesses and operations under Section 2 of the order, or as essential governmental operations in order to carry out activities that are allowed in the order for minimum basic operations. So the essential businesses and operations that are allowed under this order include a number, quite a few actually, but they are directed to the maximum extent possible to direct employees to work from home or telework. So even if you're an essential business or operation, you're supposed to try to maximize the extent to which folks are working from home or teleworking. Essential operations also have to meet social distancing requirements between and among employees and between and among employees and customers. In our case, that would be folks who are coming into the schools for whatever reason. Essential infrastructure operations are allowed to keep operating, and that includes food and beverage production and distribution, which would include our food service operations. School construction is allowed to continue, and building and grounds management, maintenance, and landscaping are allowed to continue. Anybody who is dealing with internet, video, and telecommunication systems that are essential can keep on going. So we've got some of each of those dealing with our folks. Essential government operations are allowed to keep on going, and that means operating the board to ensure the continuing operation of the school system. And there's a new requirement in this order that says each government body shall determine its essential government operations and identify employees and or contractors necessary to the performance of those functions. So, Steve, the administration needs to start working on that list. So that's in the order. Unfortunately, the pages are not numbered here, but it is in Section 2, Section 2C6. Okay?
No, I'm looking for it. Hold on. I want to know what I'm supposed to be doing. Section 2.
Okay, go to 2. We're working on a summary of this for you too. It's on the 6th page of the order.
Hang on, let me go back and count then. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, what number is it on the 6th page?
Number 6. It's Section 2C6.
Okay.
Towards the top of page 6.
Page 8 of the packet.
Okay?
Essential governmental operations.
Yep, and it's the last sentence of the first paragraph. Each government body shall determine its essential government operations and identify employees and or contractors necessary to the performance of those functions.
Okay, that's what we're doing here today then.
Okay. Nothing, going down to the 3rd paragraph under 6, it says nothing in this executive order shall prohibit any individual from performing or accessing essential government operations. And nothing in this order rescinds, amends, or otherwise modifies Section 2 of Executive Order Number 120, which also dealt with mandatory local government operations. Okay? Moving on to the next page, Section 2C17, we deal with educational institutions, which includes the school system, obviously. can continue to operate for purposes of facilitating remote learning, performing critical research, I don't think that covers us, or performing essential functions, provided that the social distancing requirements set forth below, and we'll get to those, are maintained to the greatest extent possible. This executive order is consistent with and does not amend or supersede prior executive orders regarding the closure of public schools. So schools are considered closed for instructional K-12, for K-12 instructional purposes, and that's pre-K2. On the next page, section 2C25, professional services, legal services can continue to operate. So we will be operating here at our firm where everybody's operational remotely, except for a couple of us that are in the office. So if you call the regular phone number, you'll get our receptionist, and she'll transfer the call directly to whomever you're asking for. FYI. The idea behind the way we're set up is that unless you were here, you wouldn't know who was or wasn't here. Section 2D says that all COVID-19 essential businesses and operations shall, to the extent practicable, maintain the social distancing requirements that are set forth in E, which is maintain at least 6 feet distancing, washing hands for at least 20 seconds, and frequent use of hand sanitizer, regularly cleaning high-touch surfaces, facilitating online and remote access by customers if possible. Section 3, mass gatherings, rescinds the previous mass gathering restrictions of 150 people in Executive Orders 117 and 120, and now makes a mass gathering defined as no more than 10 people. So up to 10 is okay, 11 is not, in a single room, which includes conference rooms, meeting halls, or other confined indoor or outdoor spaces. But there's an exemption for COVID-19 essential businesses or operations as defined in this order, which includes what we talked about earlier with school folks. But you still should not have more than 10 in a room, if at all possible. The end of Section 4, the last item in there, is Section 4C, dealing with local orders. It also says that nothing in this executive order rescinds, amends, or otherwise modifies Section 2 of Executive Order 120, which allows local government operations to the extent required, and this can be enforced by operation of law and by criminal penalties, and it can be enforced by any state or local law enforcement officers. It goes into effect at 5 p.m. today and shall remain in effect for 30 days, so until April 29, or until or unless it's repealed, replaced, or rescinded by another executive order. So, does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Mr. Chair?
Yep, that all you got on that? How about the Family First coronavirus response? Yes, y'all reviewing that.
Okay. We have a lengthy letter going out on that that will be going out today. Steve, you'll be getting that later today. The Families First Coronavirus Response Act goes into effect on April 1. It was one of the big relief acts that was, it's the FFCRA is what I'll be calling it, Families First Coronavirus Response Act. It goes into effect April 1, and it applies from April 1 to December 31 of this year. And it includes two amendments, one amendment to the Family Medical Leave Act, and it also includes a new provision for emergency paid sick leave. So, Congress passed this on March 18, and the biggest things you've got in here are those two new acts. The Emergency FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, and the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act. Generally, under the original FMLA, employees are entitled to 12 weeks of protected unpaid leave when they have a serious health condition or they need to care for a spouse, child, or parent with a serious health condition. If they meet some eligibility requirements. This applies, the original FMLA applies to at least 50 employer who has at least 50 employees, and the employee had to have been employed for at least 12 months or 1,250 hours prior to making the request for leave. Leave under the original FMLA is unpaid, and it's limited to a total of 12 weeks within a 12-month period. And the 12 weeks can be taken intermittently. So you don't have to take it as 12 consecutive weeks. You can take it on every other day. You can take it in half days. You can take it in a lot of different ways. The new emergency FMLA in this Families First Coronavirus Relief Act is intended to assist employees who are affected by school and child care closures or the inability of a child care provider. So the emergency FMLA changes some but not all of the basic requirements in the original FMLA. These are the big changes. First of all, there is a new category of reasons that justify the use of emergency FMLA. The new category is when the employee is unable to work or telework due to a need for leave to care for the son or daughter under 18 years old, if the school or place of child care has been closed or the child care provider is unavailable due to a public health emergency. So it's got to be unavailable due to a public health emergency. Child care unavailable. That is the only category to which emergency FMLA applies. So if the employee is sick, for example, with coronavirus, then they can't use the emergency FMLA leave, but they could use original FMLA leave or any other accrued leave they have that applies. This emergency provision only applies to employees who need to request an absence because they have lost their child care due to the public health emergency. Okay? The first 10 days of emergency FMLA are unpaid. But after that, they can get 10 weeks, up to 10 weeks of paid leave under emergency FMLA. Now, I'm going to talk about emergency paid sick leave in a minute, but for the 10 days of unpaid leave that start the emergency FMLA period, you could use emergency paid sick leave or any other accrued leave time to get paid during that unpaid period. Okay, the period during which emergency FMLA does not pay. The emergency FMLA applies to school systems, and it is available to any employee who has been employed for 30 calendar days, which is less than the traditional FMLA, which requires employment for 12 months or 1,250 hours. This gets deep into the weeds here, but I'm going to try and just hit the big provisions. It gets very complicated after a while. The emergency FMLA is paid leave after the first 10 days if you qualify because of the absence of child care. And it is calculated, the pay is calculated at 2/3 the regular rate of pay up to a maximum of $200 a day or $10,000 total for the 10 weeks of paid leave. If an employee has already exhausted their their original FMLA leave, then they're not entitled to use emergency FMLA leave. And if they've used 6 weeks of regular FMLA leave, they're only entitled to another 6 weeks of emergency FMLA leave. So they can't go above a total of 12 weeks on any combination of the original or a combination of original and emergency FMLA leave. We have the option of excluding healthcare providers or emergency responders from emergency FMLA. So, for example, if we got a school nurse, we could say they're not eligible to take emergency FMLA because we need them on the front line. The emergency FMLA will expire when there is no longer a federal, state, or local state of emergency in effect, or at the latest on December 31, 2020. Okay? The Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act is a separate provision of the Families First Coronavirus Relief Act, and it's a separate type of leave from the Emergency FMLA leave. The Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act is intended to encourage employees to observe quarantine orders or isolation orders and remove from them the fear of lost income if they don't go to work. So it's allowed to help with the public health emergency by giving people an assurance that they'll be entitled to some pay if they stay home, if they're staying home because of the public health, a public health need. So the circumstances for which an employee is eligible to take emergency paid sick leave are these. First of all, the employee is subject to a quarantine or isolation order related to COVID-19, or they've been advised by their healthcare provider to self-quarantine, or they're experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and seeking a medical diagnosis. So they have to both be experiencing symptoms and seeking a medical diagnosis. Or if they're caring for an individual who is subject to a quarantine or isolation order, or has been advised by their healthcare provider to self-quarantine, or if they're caring for their own son or daughter, if the school or place of care for the son or daughter has been closed, or the child care provider is unavailable due to COVID-19 precautions. And then there's a catch-all that says if the Secretary of Health and Human Services, in consultation with the Secretary of Treasury and Secretary of Labor, approves a substantially similar condition, then that can also apply. But there have been no such substantially similar conditions specified as of today. So that could change. The employee is entitled to emergency paid sick leave regardless of how long they've been employed. So if we employ them tomorrow, the law goes into effect April 1, they're eligible. If we employ them on April 2, and the law went into effect April 1, they're eligible. Okay, there's no waiting period to use emergency paid sick leave. And it entitles the employee to 2 weeks of paid sick leave in addition to and separate from any other type of leave the employee may have. Now, that's significant in another way that's not on the agenda, but I thought I'd toss it in here. The State Board of Education on Friday announced a new type of state of emergency leave that is up to 168 hours or 1 month for the month of April. Okay? That state of emergency leave is separate and apart from and in addition to this Emergency Family Medical Leave Act and Emergency Paid Sick Leave that are in the federal law. Okay? So getting back to the Emergency Paid Sick Leave, the employee can use it during the 10-day waiting period under emergency FMLA or original FMLA, but they don't have to use it then. They can use any other kind of leave as well. This is separate and apart from any accrued leave that the employee may have, including this new leave that the state board just adopted. Employers can't require the employee to look for a substitute, and can't retaliate against an employer for taking either emergency paid sick leave or the emergency FMLA. The amount of pay that they're entitled to depends on a couple of things. It's different depending upon whether you're a full-time or part-time employee, and it's different based on the reason for taking the emergency paid sick leave. And I won't go into the calculations there, but depending upon the reason you take it, it's capped at either $511 a day up to a maximum of $5,110 for 10 weeks, or $200 a day capped at a maximum of $2,000 for 10 weeks, for 10 days, excuse me. I think I said 10 weeks, I meant 10 days earlier. And again, we could exclude healthcare providers if we wanted to exclude a nurse from being able to take this. So there are a lot of, an awful lot of details and detailed calculations that go along with this. In your board packet, there is a new poster that we're required to post, and Steve will be sending you this poster in both Spanish and English versions. This is a new poster we're required to post at all places of work, but given that we don't have most people coming in, we probably need to email it to folks. And it kind of summarizes, in a real truncated form, some of the stuff that I just told you and the benefits there.
Rich, would you also send a copy of that to each board member, please?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Would you send a copy of that poster to each board member as well?
It's in the board packet.
I thought you said it was coming. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. But you're going to send an email, correct?
I'm going to send you a very, very detailed letter about
employee rights,
the provisions of this, how to apply it, some FAQs, calculations on how to calculate the benefits, which should be helpful to Betsy and Alfreda. And you'll be getting that later today.
Okay, I just ask that you please CC the board on everything that you send me.
Okay. All right. That's what I've got on the FFCRA. Anybody have any questions on that?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, then. No question. We're also working on guidance for the new federal law that just passed, the CARES Act. Brandon, you got anything you want to say on that? Other than we'll be sending that guidance out as soon as we can get it to you.
Just a couple of short comments, nothing too substantial. As an FYI, the federal government did allocate $13 billion to K-12 schools and $5.3 billion to child care programs. Those are national allocations, so they'll be funneled through the state agencies, but those dollars are meant to support K-12 institutions as they are responding to the COVID-19 crisis. Outside of that, as Richard said, we'll have additional guidance soon, but I feel like there's been solid action by the feds to at least give some money to help local school districts in responding to this crisis. So, but I mean, once again, it's $13 billion for the entire nation, so, it's only so much help. So I believe the state's also working on a package to help local school boards deal with these needs. So, but more coming on all of those soon. That's all I got, Rich.
Okay. And that's the law that passed Congress on Friday. Was it Friday the president signed it, Brandon?
That's right. It was signed on Friday.
Good. Okay, we're done with number 2 unless anybody has any questions.
All right, thank you, Rich.
Okay.
Item 3, DCS meal delivery options and models. And that is Mr. LaFawn and Mr. Smith.
You have a mic over there.
Yeah, I've got a microphone. Yeah, but, basically, we're working on keeping things going as best we can right now. Today is not a problem. I think everything went off pretty well this morning. Aramark believes that they can keep, we're currently kicking out, we run the program out of 5 kitchens. Aramark believes they can keep those kitchens going based on their staff surveys that they've done. Mr. Smith has worked with his crew, and he's working on making sure that we can keep everything going as is. We do have a plan to scale back if we have to based on staff availability, but I'll let Brandon speak to whether or not that's going to be necessary.
Outlook we have currently, we should be okay this week. Sent out a survey over the weekend and received many responses back, and we're reconfirming today that all those people will be returning throughout the week. So we think right now we believe we'll be good for this week. What we're working on now is trying to make sure those people continue to come back to work after this weekend. So we should be good this week as the current status is.
What our concern is that once the stay-at-home order has been in effect for a little while, that some of these folks will not they'll decide that they're going to stay at home. A lot of our bus drivers and folks are they're 60+ years old, and they're really working hard to keep things going. But we're the sustainability of the food program really is based on this group of folks. That's the update.
So basically, board, there's a real potential of losing personnel that on hour-by-hour basis, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, that's what we're understanding, that's what we're hearing, that's what we're sharing with you. This weekend, we sent you our best numbers. They are guesses because they're qualitative and not quantitative numbers that we can pull from a report. Basically, it's us surveying the staff and asking them what they think they're going to do. And every time there's an announcement, there seems to be some sort of shift in thought for this employee. So therefore, we basically have said we're having a board meeting this morning and just kind of asked for some questions. We've shared those questions with you that might be a good time to start talking through. One of those is basically, we can work through, I bolded the ones that look like it pertains directly to is sitting here. I bolted them. That's how, I mean, we're working on this thing hour to hour. So we've shared those with you, and I bolted the ones that I think would probably work closest to food service. And I'd just like to go through those with you and find out what the board wants to do with legal advice in the room. That'd be permissible.
Brandon and Darren, how tired are our people who are going to keep working on this week? I'm worried about how tired they are.
How tired are they?
Yeah, how tired are our people who are offering to still work? I mean, it's spring break. We don't normally feed during spring break. And I know that we're helping our community and our families, and I'm all about it, but I'll be honest, I'm just worried about all of these people who are just working so hard to get this done. Do we just need to tell everybody just to rest after today and then come back and start over Monday? We don't know how long this is going to go. This is a long haul. I don't know. I'm just worried about our people. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Well, I'm concerned about our folks as well, but we've already made the announcement that we're going to try to feed straight through, through spring break and go this as long as we can. Scaling it back. Scaling it back would be something that is up to the board. It's not really up to if you'd like us to scale it back, we can certainly do that. But
No, I just want us to keep a very close eye on them this week. I'm just worried about everybody just being worn out.
we have had,
You don't have too much choice, so some of that.
Yeah, I know.
say
I
that again,
understand
Rich.
that.
You don't have too much choice on some of it.
Yeah,
we
I
have
get
I
it.
mean, it's a matter, if it's a matter of are people tired or are kids gonna eat,
Right, so,
it's
No,
a
I understand that. I'm just worried that with this 5 o'clock order, though, that a lot of people are just going to think, oh, I can't go get food, and just talking out loud.
people
Thinking it
can
through.
still go get food.
I know that, but you need to understand, all weekend, what we heard was, oh, we can't come back and get food from you guys, because as of Monday at 5, I'm like, no, that is not what it means. So we just got to make sure we get the word out that people understand that they can still go and get their food and get their meals.
Cindy, we're sending folks out to each of the sites to meet, to talk to the bus drivers, and we're trying to get somebody out there every single day from my staff, and transportation department, to talk to them, and we can make sure that they understand the parameters of the governor's order, and also, really honestly, the biggest piece is to keep a check on them to see how they're doing. They're working hard. They're working much harder than they're used to, and longer hours than they're used to. And I have the same concerns that you do. Brandon has the same concerns about his people that you expressed. So we're just going to try to power through as best we can and keep a good eye on them. Maybe rotate some in and some out. Give them a break every once in a while. Take a day off, and we'll try to schedule as efficiently as we possibly can to keep everything going.
so,
Okay.
so
Just
let's
let
work.
me know. I can come help if you need me. Just let me know.
Well, we need
Yes, ma'am.
we need some clarification, because with that, working with people, they tend to be up and downs about whether they're happy with it or not. So as these things and we get tired and what's going on and what shows up later on in social media and emails, so we just want some clarifications going into this. So right now, the board does support us paying an additional week during spring break for our employees. Is that correct?
That's correct for me, yes.
Wait a minute, Steve, what are you saying?
We have employees that are working for food service, and we as a staff have said that yes, we would pay them if they would continue to food service under spring break. So we want to clarify that that's what the board wants to do.
I don't think you have any choice but to pay them if they're working.
I need my board to tell me that.
Well, you don't, they can either tell you that or you can violate the law.
But is it
you're
not
required to pay
wait a minute, is it not a local government decision though, earlier, how we do it? I just want to make sure we're clarifying that we're paying employees, and I want the board to know we're paying employees an additional week. That's all I'm saying. That's been said openly.
Okay, if we're clarifying, let's make sure we know what we're clarifying, because I'm not clear about what we're clarifying here.
We're paying
We're
paying employees for time that we've never paid them before historically, and I just want to make sure that's known and agreed to.
Okay. Okay, are you talking about paying the employees who are involved in food delivery?
Yes,
or everybody?
and that could be anybody from TAs to any hour employee that has volunteered to work that assignment. So it's a mixed bag of people, bus drivers and everybody. So they will be being
Okay, but
paid.
you're only talking about people
They'll be being paid
are
for.
you talking about all employees? Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah,
No,
go ahead, Biz.
we can't talk about all the employees. And
If
basically,
they work.
my thought on that was, if they are working, instead of taking spring break, we give them back their annual leave, and they're actually just getting paid, their regular salary, just like they've been doing, and they get back that 4 days of annual leave. Now, I don't know what that does to the,
See, that's a big question, because some of these people are probably going to want the money. They don't want to leave. And so what do we do with those
I
folks?
mean, we don't have, I'm hopefully we're not double paying. Yeah, most of them do.
Got that question, TA, too.
Well, I thought what we would do is
I told them that their leave would be.
give them back their
to them and
annual
we would
leave.
pay them
I mean,
for
we
working.
aren't going to pay them for working and for their annual leave day, to be sure. I hope we're not.
No.
I mean, my thought was that we would, give them back, or, you know, it's set in the calendar for 10-month people because we're required to do that. We would give them back their annual leave, and pay them because they're working. And just save them their annual leave.
That's what, I need that to be said out loud, because there's gonna be some confusion. There's already talk going on in TAs and the bus drivers about what that looks like for them as far as down the road. So I need that determined and set into the record today. So they're gonna be paid and they'll retain their annual leave.
Right, for every day that they actually work, then we will give them back their annual leave.
And that is your recommendation to the board?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think we'll pay them, as much as I'd like to, we don't have the money to pay them like their annual leave day and the work.
So does the board understand basically we're gonna pay them and they will retain their annual leave? And they'll just stack?
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
They're working their vacation, they're not getting paid for the vacation, they're getting paid for the work hours they perform.
That's right. Okay. Yes. That is right. That's correct.
So the next one, let's see here, will we be providing food service over break, or are TAs expected to work on a volunteer basis? So let's get, the food service plan that we submitted to the board basically has a stair step, and I don't know how to pull the trigger on those steps unless it's just a certain number or certain percentage of people show up. Who pulls the trigger on
Steve,
whether
I'm
or
not sure. Steve, this is Rich. Are you reading from something or looking at
Yeah,
something? What are you talking about?
well, we asked for questions. When we came back to work, we asked for questions to be submitted from people, and we're going through, these are the questions that we're getting through email, and teachers are emailing board members. And so we're trying to collect a set of questions just to ask in the board meeting to get some clarification.
Okay, can you shoot those to us?
We did. They're in your email.
Hey, Rich, I just copied and pasted them and emailing to you as well.
Okay. This is at 9:15 this morning?
I guess.
Okay, I see it now.
I mean, they came in with like an hour.
Invitation to edit questions to DOE, got it.
Yeah, we were getting emails because everybody was finding out we were having a meeting, and we were getting a bunch of emails, so we said put them all in a document and send them to the board this morning.
Okay, a lot of these have, I'm just glancing at them, a lot of these are
I think the big deal is
legal issues.
Employees want to know if they have to show up. They want to know if they show up and there's not PPE, then are they going to be required to work? Things like that are in there. And then the 10-person rule, is that counting the cafeterias or not? And how is that handled with our contractors versus our PCS staff? I kind of bolded the ones that look like it pertain to what we're discussing right now. But we need some guidance.
Okay,
What to tell these
so
folks.
some of this is going to be affected by the school, this new paid state of emergency leave that the state board just adopted that goes into effect tomorrow, on April 1st.
Okay, so which ones, I mean, that's what we've got, people calling us and asking us questions daily, so we need to be getting some clarification on this.
Okay, well, I'm just reading these for the first time. I mean, we just got them, and I didn't know they were sitting on my email while I was getting ready for the meeting.
Well, they're basically similar questions from last week, it's just now it's ramped up, which is basically, the easy questions are, do we still require people to show up for work if we can't provide them PPE or a social distancing situation?
Okay,
That's
so
been
a lot of
ongoing.
these are not board decisions.
But the board needs to be made aware of them, correct?
Yeah, we need to review these, and some of these, there's going to be an intersection, and some of these, there's going to be a disconnect between the new emergency FMLA, the new emergency paid sick leave, and the new paid state of emergency leave adopted by the feds and the state, none of which have guidance to cover all of these issues right now.
So what's your suggestion?
CPI hasn't come out with any guidance on the new state of emergency leave.
Well,
So I don't feel comfortable going through and giving you off-the-cuff answers on this stuff right now at all.
so, but we've got to give employees answers today, and we've got to know whether we ordered food today. So I need to talk to somebody today.
Well, ordering food in the meal thing is different from some of these other things that you've got here. My suggestion would be to let us take a look at these things and work with your staff to try to figure some of these out, and then see if we need to get guidance from any place else on it.
Okay, can we make sure that's a priority? Because
But I haven't even had a chance to read through all these questions, let alone come up with the answers for them.
well, they're basically the same ones that have been around since it started. If we can't offer the protection, do they have to show up? If they refuse to show up, will they be disciplined? And that's pretty much been the ongoing question since it started.
And the answer to that is it depends on the reason why they refuse to show up. And the questions might have been around, but the answers are changing because we've got new laws that are going into effect and new state board mandates and a new executive order, all of which have, just come out since Friday or haven't even gone into effect yet.
I totally agree.
So while the questions might have been around, but the answers are going to change.
Yeah, I think that's good to be said in public meeting.
So I have a question, Rich. Since this week after today was considered our spring break with 10-month employees supposedly taking annual leave, will that not stay in effect even though these orders have gone in place since it was a planned spring break week for the 10-month employees?
Yes, it will stay into effect.
Okay, because that kind of takes care of this week for, all these questions, I think, because with the 10-month employees, we have to put in those vacation days in the calendar. They've been taking this as 4 of them.
Yeah. So even if they're sick, for example, Betsy. Is somebody else talking?
Yeah, somebody's talking.
Somebody's feedback from wherever you're sitting at.
Okay. So even if they're sick and they would otherwise be entitled to take some other leave, like emergency paid sick leave or something like that, they can't take it while you're on spring break. It's the equivalent of if they were planning to go to Disney World for spring break and they got sick and couldn't go.
Right.
They're still taking their annual leave days.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure since that is, the plan for this week and, we had a lot of questions about it. I just wanted to make sure we were all on board with that.
So,
Yeah.
so Rich, now that we have Airmark working in that same line of questioning about trying to get some answers for contractors, are contractors considered essential personnel that the schools are shut down? Can we allow people to come in and fix things?
Yeah. For which type of contractors? What are you talking about?
A slew of them.
We have,
Okay, well, it depends on, Steve, it depends on whatever the trade or business is. Some might be and some might not be.
well, like I have a boiler that went down at Topsail High School over the weekend. It would be possible to have the contractor come in, because I don't have anybody on my staff that can fix it. Contractor would have to come in and fix it. They would be coming from.
That would be allowed. Okay.
How about,
To have a contractor come in to do that.
How about a scheduled construction project, like, we're gonna put the walkway up at Pender High School across from the gym? That's something that's been scheduled to go?
That would be allowed because school construction is considered, essential. And building maintenance is also considered essential. And construction and building maintenance, like fixing the boiler and doing the school construction project, would be considered essential. But you could defer it as well. Now, if the boiler, you probably couldn't defer the construction of whatever that is. You said it's an awning, you could probably defer that, but you could allow it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rich, can you do us a favor then and send it to the board for approval or something? We need, you know how you built this document from the governor's order and the Family Leave Act? Could you build us a document that could answer some of those questions for our employees based on what we know today?
Yeah, but some of these are going to be, some of these questions I'm looking at are, going to be more fact specific. So, we can get you something, but it's not going. The answers to the questions aren't necessarily going to come from the documents.
Yeah. I think our concern right now is we have a lot of people waiting to hear something. And several of these are within a 24-hour turnaround. So anything we can do to speed it up on our behalf.
24-hour turnaround isn't going to work for some of these. But Steve, for some of these, if we give them 24-hour turnaround, all we're going to do is give them the wrong answer.
I know.
So I know it's frustrating, but this stuff, I don't have to tell you how fast it's changing.
Well, I'm fine, but I think this is good discussion for open meeting, that people understand exactly what we're dealing with and how difficult it is. If you would look through it, and as soon as possible, let me know what we can answer or whatever you need more information on.
Okay. All right, we have to revise the board meeting date. Don?
Yeah, would you repeat that for me, please?
Are we up to number 4, revising board meeting dates?
Well, I mean, this is under action and we didn't vote on anything, so what do we need to do about that before we move on?
He's talking about the meal delivery service, Rich, which is who pulls the trigger. I mean, we come up with a plan. They did a great job in 24 hours of coming up with what looks like a pretty solid plan for that amount of time. And we don't know who's going to show up. I mean, we may get phone calls tonight, but we need some solid answers on when to pull the trigger on this, or at least vote on it as our means of action, and we'll make the decision as we go.
Well, I mean, because the way I see it, we've got to pick an option right now and go with it.
This is Rich, I don't think you need to do that. I think the board should simply authorize the administration.
Let's go with it, that's right.
To continue with meal delivery in, the fashion they believe best serves the needs of the kids.
That's right, let's do it.
Subject to changing conditions.
All right, well, let's get that out of the way and then move on. Is that okay with everybody?
Fine with me. If we've got a plan in place, we'll just see how it goes day by day. I'm fine with that.
I think that would be the best course of action right now.
Yeah.
Well, the plan that's in your package is what we plan to follow. That's what you're voting on.
Yeah.
So the motion, may I suggest a motion for the superintendent to determine the best meal delivery options in response to changing conditions and to carry them out?
I put that as a form of motion.
All right, Ken's made the motion. Do we have a second?
I second, go ahead with it.
All right, Cindy seconds. All in favor?
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. Before we move on, this construction we were talking about, can we make up our minds on it, things like the walkway and stuff like that, that we talked about? Because, I mean, I don't really see where it's related to food service. So,
no, it's not.
Well, the way the order reads, and they're all right. HVAC contractors do it, school construction. If you read the order, these things are covered in that order.
yeah, no, that's right. So, in my opinion,
You can continue to go ahead with that, and I don't think the administration needs any board direction or authorization for it if it's authorized. And
well, no, because we already directed 2 or 3 meetings ago to proceed. So, okay. All right, is everybody good with that? Yep. All right. Then the next item, it looks like, is our meeting date, which, you know, with this going on, you know, I think we've got to kind of be open to about anything here.
Well, you've got, let me speak to this if I may. You've got a schedule of regular board meetings that you adopt every year. You're required by law to adopt that schedule of regular meetings.
Okay.
And then that establishes your regular meeting date under the open meetings law. And then any other meetings that you hold separate and apart from those are special meetings or an emergency meeting. This is a special meeting held on 48 hours notice that we're having today. Because you've moved your spring break, the suggestion from the administration is to change from, your spring break is when, right now, right, Steve?
Starts tomorrow.
Okay, so, and why are you recommending changing from April 21 to April 14?
Because we got a lot of stuff to to do. I mean, we're going to have contracts and everything else, so if we could move it up, it's the better. I mean, you're getting into, I mean, we're still doing business as normal in finance. They need to know some things.
Okay, so could the recommendation be to move it up like that and then to have any special meetings, as required, any stuff like that? Would that work?
Well, you're going to do that anyway. What the request is to change your regular meeting date for April from April 21 to April 14 at what time, Steve?
Regular time. You guys want to have are we still, I guess we can have a cow if you want to have it. So I just say the regular schedule. I'm sure there's a lot we can talk about.
Okay, so do we really need a committee of the whole on the 14th?
That's the board decision. They want to sit down and talk.
So it would be to change the scheduled regular board meeting from April 21 to April 14 at 6 p.m. And because it's going to be your regular board meeting, you would have an opportunity for public comment required at that meeting. So if you simply have a motion to change the regular board meeting for April from April 21 to April 14 at 6 p.m., that's all you need.
I make that motion.
All right, Tim's made the motion. We have a second.
Second.
All right, Brad, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Anybody opposed? Okay. All right.
Steve, that'll need to be posted right away, on the board website, and in a prominent place, and also indicate that public comment will be allowed at that meeting. And we'll have to set up a means to do public comment, assuming we're doing this as a virtual meeting.
Okay, done.
All right. Y'all ready? Do we need to have a closed session?
I don't have a need for one. Steve, do you?
I do not.
Okay. Then we should have a motion to amend the agenda to delete closed session, and then that could be followed by a motion to adjourn.
I make the said motion of amending the agenda.
Okay. Ken's made the motion. Do we have a second?
That's a motion
Second.
to amend the agenda to delete closed session.
Right. Cindy, second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we adjourn.
I got a
All right,
question.
Ken's made a motion. We adjourn. Do we have a second?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
We got a text over the weekend about the DPI grading
Yes.
options. Do we have those?
No. That we'll have a meeting that we were referencing to take Monday and Tuesday for us to look at that. We'll probably be calling you for another meeting on Thursday of this week for another special meeting.
Okay.
Sir?
Okay. All right, we had
Yes.
does anybody have anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, we had a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Well, all right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, everybody. All righty, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.